Hello, crypto world. Welcome to the Chart Historian. My name is Justin, and on this channel, I delve deep into crypto charts, exploring chart structures, fractals, and patterns. Well, today I'm going to cover a new chart, and that is the XLM chart. So I conducted a poll, and I said, whichever of these two charts receives the most votes, I will cover that. And the choices were XLM and Bitcoin Cash. So XLM won, so that is why I am doing a video on XLM. And I do believe that XLM is a good match for this channel. I cover XRP, and XLM is the little brother, if you will, of XRP. So if you look at this chart, you can't easily tell that it is a repetitive structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on some boxes and help change your perception of this chart. So for me to do a macro chart structure analysis, I need enough data on a chart to where the original structure occurs and then it has parts of that structure repeating once again. And on this chart, on the XLM chart, we have enough data to do that analysis. So this structure started in 2018. Let's zoom into this part and work our way through this chart. So this box here labeled decline is part. It's not the full structure. It's only part of the structure. It later is repeated and we will see the full structure, and we can compare the later version, the later iteration of this structure back to this structure. Now, once it completes this part of the decline, it moves into what I called the lower decline, and it's just that. It's the lower portion of the decline. Actually, this whole structure there's another part you'll see that I add, and that's the crashing portion of the decline. So the overall decline is comprised of the crash, the decline, and the lower decline. So in this lower decline, what price does is it moves back up, makes a peak, drops, it moves back up again before dropping and doing this little bounce at the end. Once it completes this structure, price moves back up in a range-bound fractal. So just as XRP has a range-bound time, so does XLM. Now, I've divided this range-bound time into two separate fractals. The first fractal starts with a move up, forming the first wave. It does a second wave. It declines and does a third wave. So this first structure has three waves: wave 1, wave 2, and wave 3. After that, it moves into the next fractal of the range-bound time, and it begins this with a move back up, forming a peak, and then this slow grind of a move back up to a peak, and then it declines. So these two structures make up this range-bound time that exists in XLM, and this range-bound time takes place after the decline and before, yes, folks, the bull run. So there is only one iteration of this bull run so far, and the way this has played out, it was a series of steps up to a peak. So I don't know if the next iteration will have the same number of steps or smaller peaks. This one had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which brought it to a peak. Now, when a structure or a fractal repeats, the timing, the height, and the depth, they're always going to be original. So the next iteration of this structure, it could have these 6 peaks, but it may not look exactly like this. The timing could be different. The height could be different. The depth in between the peak and the trough could be different. All that is always going to be original. However, the basic idea of the structure should repeat. So it will most likely comprise of waves up to a peak. Now, whether it's 6, I don't know. We'll have to see how that materializes when that time comes. So after this peak, there comes a crash. And this was the part that I was telling you about. the decline is made up of three parts. So in this part of the decline, price falls quickly, aggressively. Near the end of this crashing fractal or this crashing box, it's no longer as steep. It comes to a low before moving back up into the decline structure. So remember, I was telling you that the original decline structure did not have the complete structure. So here is the complete structure. Price moves back up, forms a peak here, declines, moves back up again, and forms another peak here. From here, it declines again. Now, if we take this fractal from right here, copy and paste it onto the original structure over here, it would look something like this. So as you can see, let's zoom in a little closer. We have a decent match. Price falls, it moves back up, falls. The timing's a little different here, but it does the same thing. It moves up to a peak before falling again, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, this structure has been repeated from its original one right here. This is the original copy to over here. And as you can see, it is a close match. Now let's move on to the next structure. So the next structure is the lower decline. Now if we look at this iteration of this over here, we see first off, wow, the scale is much smaller. And that is something that can happen. The timing, height, and depth are always going to be original. That can allow for the same structure to play out at a smaller scale. Let's examine the similarities of these two structures. So the original one starts off with a move up, it declines, and then it moves back up again before dropping and doing this little bounce at the end of this structure. So over here we see a move up. Let's zoom in here. It drops, moves back up before declining and doing that bounce at the end of the structure. So while timing, height, and depth were original, the overall idea, the basic structure, has been repeated. That being a peak, a move back up before dropping and doing a bounce at the bottom. A peak, and then moving back up before declining and doing a bounce. So after that lower decline, this next structure right here is a repeat of this one, the range-bound fractal 1. So in this range-bound fractal, what happened here? We had the first wave, the second wave, and then the third wave. So here we have the first wave, the second wave, which brings it to a peak, just like here, and then the smaller third wave is repeated right here, just on a smaller scale. So range-bound fractal 2 starts with a move up, and then it declines. It makes a peak. So we see this, and this is greatly exaggerated here, but it's doing the same thing. It moves up, makes a peak, and then declines. So assuming this decline has completed, what comes next is this kind of slow moving upwards that will come to a peak, then decline before entering into the next fractal, which will be the bull run. Now, I don't know how long this structure will take to play out. It could play out in this length of time. It could play out much shorter. It could play out longer. That is something we will have to see as it materializes. But what I believe is likely to start playing out next is this kind of slow grind back up to a peak. It will decline, and then it will go into the bull run. So folks, we are actually fairly close to the next XLM bull run. Now, I don't know the height of this. I don't know the timing of this. I don't know the depth of the declines between the waves up. All that will be known once this structure begins to play out. But what I do believe is going to happen is price, once it gets here, will start aggressively moving up. It will eventually come to a peak, and this whole portion of the structure after the bull run will then materialize somewhere over here. So folks, there you have it. That is the macro chart structure of XLM. So we are currently in the range-bound time. We are in the second fractal. We are getting close to the bull run. We just need to have patience, but now you know where we are at and what is coming down the pike. Well, I hope you found value in this video. If you did, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that thumbs up button. You know, this type of TA that you just saw is original. It's something that I have discovered, the whole concept of a macro chart structure that is repetitive. This is original TA. You're not going to find this anywhere else. So if you found this interesting, I recommend you hit that subscribe button. I will also be continuing to update this chart as this structure continues to develop. I'm a new channel, so hitting that subscribe button makes it easier for you to find me again. I'm not a financial advisor, so none of this should be considered financial or investment advice. I'm so glad you caught this video. I hope you catch my next one. Have a great day, and bye for now.